one of the main use cases of doing all of this work, getting most of the data in the warehouse, is getting the source of truth, like a full profile. Most people call it like 360 view of the customer. And usually like hyper personalization or personalization is like the outcome, that use case of that. What does that mean for you exactly? And like maybe walk us through examples of what you were able to accomplish at Prefect, or something that's on the roadmap, because I know you're in the process of building out that warehouse native stack. Maybe chat about that for a bit.
So with the risk of sounding too vague, I'm gonna start with something high level, and then we'll just like unpack it until we
Cool.
get to something a little more tactical. To me, personalization means reaching the right people, so who have a specific problem at the right time when they're also ready to solve this problem. And usually, right, the flavors of that are right about the product, and it's a bit, you could take that as something around product positioning, or right, problem aware versus solution aware, and at what, or right, in the sales sense of what, where are people at in their buying journey. But really, I think that every product, right, at some point, a startup starts with one very, very narrow ICP, where it's just one type of person trying to solve one specific problem in one specific way. But pretty quickly that expands, and it becomes two, it becomes three, it becomes multiple. And usually, hopefully that doesn't expand too far where you're still, you actually have an ICP, you're not just marketing to everyone, but that grows quickly with the growth of the company. And what that really translates to from a marketing perspective is being able to understand where your people are and what they're doing, who fit in this category, who are the right people, and what are the signals that they're exhibiting when it's the right time, when they're ready to kind of solve this problem that they inevitably have, right? Because that's like the crux of the company existing in the company messaging. And so at Prefect, I mentioned Common Room earlier. That's a tool that we use to really understand what are people doing out in the ecosystem. It could be with monitoring our own ecosystem, whether it's like an internal community or an external ecosystem like LinkedIn or like a third party, right, platform, in terms of we have some philosophies and theories on who the ICP is, identifying them, and then matching that with signals. But that doesn't go anywhere unless, right, just saying, here's an ICP with these signals, like that doesn't mean too much to the sales team, right? There needs to be a lot more context. And so I think that needs to be matched with how can we as a company, so we talked about developers like hating marketing. And so I think that needs to be matched as how can we as a company, right, in our outreach, be helpful to that person at that time with what we know. And so that to me is what personalization means. It's about being helpful and being hyper targeted in that help, where it's not, we're helping everyone the same way, and here's 5 different things, and hopefully one fits in terms of case studies or right, docs or content or whatever. It's really about, hey, this might be really helpful for you, or I hope it is, or whatever, and being very hyper targeted. For Prefect, for example, one of the kind of, I think, canonical use cases is around the like ML team versus the analytics team. So just to dive into that a little bit. So Prefect, were all of our users primarily use Python or have used Python, or use Python to deploy data pipelines or any sort of data related work. For analytics teams, it's usually some sort of ETL process, right? You extract data, you load data, you do something with it. It's usually warehouse native. For an ML team, it looks completely different. It's, they have data and they're building models or training models or testing models, and the requirements around how those models get trained and how they're run on infrastructure are very, very different. You need like huge GPUs sometimes, depending on the field that you're in, right? You just have a completely different view of the world versus a data team that's actually not working in Python, for example, in Prefect's case, using mostly SQL, but needs some Python to just take their work into production and do some like random ETL processes. And those two use cases are fundamentally different. And so if someone is an ML engineer versus someone who's, right, just doing a lot more stuff in the warehouse, we're going to talk about our product a little bit differently because the problem is similar and the solution is similar, and it's still in the realm of what we're doing and what we're trying to solve as a company, but they're just two different personas. And I think that's really the work with product marketing, to define what those personas are, how you reach out to them, but also, right, the work in growth and the work in Martech is having the tooling to identify and being able to properly segment on those personas.